And we're late.
Yeah, it's YouTube's fault.
It is
As
this time for
usual.
once. For once, this is entirely pinnable on YouTube.
What do you mean for once? This is hardly the first time.
Well, before, I don't know what you see, so it could potentially be a fernism of just not seeing something, but having looked at it myself as you were doing it this time for sure, Z's, it was all YouTube's fault.
Yeah, it's definitely YouTube's fault. So, yeah, we just spent the last 15, 20 minutes discovering that YouTube can show exactly the same page in completely different ways to people. Because reasons. Or is it just because they're too lazy to code for other browsers?
I don't know. There usually is a way to fake it, because the site has to ask your browser what it is and what version number it is, and you can usually spoof that fairly easily if you know how. I mean, I don't have the knowings of it, but I have done it before in the distant past when I've needed to, because I use an atypical browser. So it's doable. But usually it's just it's something that they do because it's not really necessary for them to block other browsers. It's probably just to try and avoid getting unnecessary tech support requests.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this shtick.
All right. If you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us on Discord, which you can get to our Discord community server by going and clicking the link that will be attached at the bottom of the video in the description, or alternatively, you can go to vtwproductions.com and you can click on the show logo. It should take you directly to our Discord server where you can communicate with the show hosts and the listeners to the show.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I changed to the server for the chat to be based in Sydney, so we'll see if that creates a little bit more stability for this show.
Yeah. So
if we can boot it back to West Coast if I'm the one having problems in a particular week, I guess.
Well, you see, the thing is, I haven't heard you have any problems yet.
Not recently.
Not recently.
Fern is coming through a lot clearer for me today than he has been in previous weeks. So
likewise for you. So yeah.
So yeah, as long as I'm not having internet shenanigans with it being in Sydney, it should be fine in Sydney.
Nah. In this case, because it's just going from me to Sydney to you, it shouldn't be too bad. Like, normally it's going kind of from me to Sydney to Brisbane to you, back again.
In theory, it should be fine as long as it's download stuff.
Yeah.
This is all data streaming down. It's only when I have to upload more than, live voice that it has a heart attack.
Well, I just realized that my computer's also been uploading torrents this whole time, and I still hadn't roboted.
Oh, that's
naughty. It's a good sign.
Yes, it is. And it's also a sign that you're doing naughty things.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you aren't going to sell me your product, well, I'll find a way to obtain it.
Yeah, and that's the golden rule.
I've thrown colossal quantities of money at anime in the past. Truly colossal quantities. I have hundreds of DVDs and Blu-rays. And I still can't get the things that I want simply because they decide not to sell them. So, no, I feel like I've contributed my share to the industry at this point.
Yeah. Alright, so on the stream today I'm playing a bit of Age of Wonders Planetfall. I'm actually doing it live again because I just did not have time to do anything else this week.
Been one of them weeks.
So I might play as them Bugmen, and
we've been having too many of them weeks as a collective.
It's the, as they call it, the silly season.
Yep. So I'm glad I wasn't at least doing night shift last night, because apparently there was a massive fight in the middle of town again. Good times.
Any reason for it? Is it political?
They're Australian?
Is there ever a reason for it?
They're drunken Australian, but I repeat myself.
Well, yes. So yeah, this week for me has been largely a balance of work and running around and getting just stuff done before the end of the year. All sorts of different stuff.
Oh, alright. Christmas is coming up. and I haven't even started my Christmas shopping because I was going to do it this week, and it didn't happen because I got busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't started either. I don't know what I'm going to pull out at the last minute.
Let me see. I might do that. Okay. So yeah, yeah. As far as gaming this week, I really don't have anything aside from maybe amusing that nobody makes good pirate games. That's a random thought.
I'm not sure that you can make good pirate games. I'm pretty sure that the closest thing to a good pirate game that there is EVE Online.
Yeah, if you want the single player version, it's the majority of Assassin's Creed 4.
Yeah, or Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like, there's games out there which have the parts. Like Atlas has the scope, except it's a bug-filled terrible mess. Monkey Island has the camp. Black Flag has basically the single player experience, but it's wrapped up in Black Flag, what is essentially Assassin's Creed.
You got 4 hours of Assassin's Creed to go through before you actually unlock all the piratey bits.
Yeah.
And the whole pirate system in that game might as well be a separate game.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to do that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by then the fatigue had worn out, I think.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed still crept in there. What else you got on the market? That thing from Rare. Yeah.
Sea of Thieves?
That's the one. It's got some neat mechanics, but that's it.
Well, the reason why it's a bad pirate game is largely because, provided you are playing it properly, you'll realize that there is a reason why pirates were the most hated people on Earth. And that's because it's basically a profession where you be a humongous asshole to as many people for as much profit as possible.
Yeah, I always feel kind of guilty doing that in multiplayer.
Like, I mean, I remember reading a Penny Arcade post on it because the Penny Arcade people have gone, predictably completely soft in their old age. So the only thing they care about now are games that you can play with your kids. And they found Sea of Thieves initially to be very good for that, except that what happens is that in a game full of pirates, other players come and they be pirates at you.
Yeah.
You can't maintain your Pirates of the Caribbean fantasy because people will come and slaughter you and take all your stuff.
And that's why I don't like playing the multiplayer pirate games. Is doing the pirating is fun. Being pirated, not fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the most piracy that I ever need is Monkey Island, like, rhyming combat.
I mean, it's still one of the best sword fighting systems I've seen in a game.
Only good pirate was the one who was going and stepping on the British because he was a part of the American Revolution. Keep ripping in heaven, John Paul Jones.
So, what else? We got another one coming up from Ubisoft, which might be, basically Assassin's Creed Black Flag without the Assassin's Creed on it.
That would be amazing. The naval combat in that game, I haven't gone back and played it recently, but every memory I have of it is just really fun. Even building the ship up and the little side missions.
Yeah.
Like, everything to do with pirates in Black Flag is good. It's only the Assassin's Creed bits that get in the way.
Yeah, let's do without the Assassin's Creed bits. As for the other pirate games, pretty much you had Sid Meier's Pirates made 25 years ago, and then people, whenever they make a pirate game, generally just copy that. And those games feel very samey and very dry and boring.
I'm sure there must have been some pirate MMOs in the MMO boom era.
I don't know if any made the main, even broke to the surface of the mainstream and got a following, though.
I wonder. Let's ask the Googs.
Did Sword of the New World have any?
Here we go. There was Pirates of the Burning Sea.
Right. I remember that. I remember hearing about that.
And I believe this may have been a very niche one, Uncharted Waters Online.
No, I don't know that one.
And the big name, of course, that pops up at the top of the list is, of course, Sea of Thieves. Like, Sea of Thieves has I actually downloaded it and played it a little bit a couple of weeks ago. And it has a really cool treasure tracking mechanic. Like, you look at your map and then you need to take a certain number of paces, or you need to solve a riddle or something like that. That's really cool. But everything else is just boring.
Yeah, everything else is PvP is what it boils down to.
There is a story mode, but yeah, you can go and do it on your own from what I understand, but sailing on your own is possible but not fun. And especially if you get in combat, because running the wheel and running the sails on your own to get from A to B is fine. In combat, you need to run the wheel, the sails, and all the cannons. Not happening.
Yeah. No.
You can't put AI crewmen on them.
You just control the whole boat in Ash Creed 4, and that works pretty good.
Yeah. Atlas, you can do either. You can either get robots and stick them in the places so you can control the whole boat, or you can get players to do it.
The controls on the sail are both movement controls on the sticks and the triggers, and the cannons are assigned to the face buttons. So you just can spin the ship however you want and just control the entire ship at once.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just play Black Flag just to scratch that itch.
Yeah.
It's such a bad... The game just ends so badly, though. Like, that story is so awful.
Yeah.
You do have to sit through the Ash Creedy bits.
Yeah.
You gotta work does that one... That's one you have to work at Google, isn't it?
Yeah,
for the
probably.
First bit, yeah. It's okay. Stuff to do with the ship and maxing it out by the halfway point, so you can kick the Assassin's Creed bits to the curb as soon as you get to that point and just go pirate on stuff.
As long as it has a bit of camp to it. Like, that's one of the things you need to have a really good pirate game and pirate story, is it's got to have that element of camp.
Pirates are awful.
Exactly.
It's like One Piece is incredibly successful because the pirates are nothing like pirates.
No, that's right. Like,
and the one that is like a villain who's hated by people because he's a villain.
He is just a villain, and that's it. But yeah, like especially when you start considering the realities of life at sea. Like 100 people would go out on a boat, and maybe 60 of them would come back, and not because they were eaten by the Kraken. It's just because they would die.
And about 4.5 with all their body parts.
Yeah, like you
0 for count teeth.
Make a wrong move while winding in a sail, and you could lose an arm in a pulley.
Well, before the invention of oranges on the boats, there was scurvy.
Which don't rhyme with anything.
Yeah. So
if you ever needed to derail a sea shanty,
I love that sequence.
It's the best.
Actually recorded it on a cassette when I was little because I thought it was funny.
Oh yeah, I think we all did. So yeah, we need a good campy pirate game, one that's not afraid to be a bit silly and a bit flamboyant, and it's got to be single player.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
As for the other stuff I did, the only thing I really did of note is sat down and started watching Fire Force for some shonen-y goodness. And that show gets dark.
Yeah, it really does. It's a bit schizophrenic like that.
Yeah.
Like it can be incredibly silly at times, but overall the world seems to be sort of like teetering on the edge of dystopia a lot of the time.
From what they were saying on the second episode, they show kind of the world map, and they show how it's kind of the world's been degraded and how the landmass has been degraded, but aside from that little patch around kind of Tokyo and the outlying regions around it, everything else seems to be on fire.
Yeah, that more or less seems to be the case.
So he thinks the world be boned. Whoopsie. Why am I doing these terrible things? So yeah, it's a very enjoyable thing. It is shonen at its core, but it's probably on the darker end of the shonen spectrum.
Yeah.
It's not the darkest.
I think that it's on the dark. I think it's on the dark side of the middle. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on the dark end. I think it's on the dark half.
Yes, that's probably a better way to put it. Dark end is bleak. Let's not go there.
But yeah, there's been actually a resurgence in really quality shonen over the past few years with Hero Aka and Demon Slayer, and I think Fire Force probably deserves to be up there as well, depending on how they progress the story. But we went through a pretty bleak period for a while where there just weren't any that were any good.
It was the big three, and that's it.
Well, the big three, we had to watch them basically wither in real time.
Yeah.
Oh, never forget what happened to Bleach.
Oh no, we don't speak of the
I
end
mean,
of Bleach.
what happened to Bleach is pretty much the same thing that happened to Dragon Ball Z, like, give or take. But it was a series that went on too long, and so it's the same thing that happened to Yu Yu Hakusho. Really, there's no reason for the last arc. There's no reason. You didn't need to do this.
Yeah, according to the author, the last arc doesn't exist in canon. It's totally non-canon. He just wrote it to get the show to get the manga canceled.
At least Naruto had the good grace to finish its story when the story was over.
Yeah, except that then they just sold the rights. The rights were just used to create another series.
Yeah, Boruto. It's Naruto again,
and drag the story out.
Naruto had the opposite problem of the other big three, I think, where they just drug the story out, so not a lot would happen each episode until the big Wham episodes eventually came up, and they decided, okay, we cannot stall anymore, we have to move the plot, and then they would just stall for as long as they could. Even when it got to main story canon stuff, they would just drag it very slowly to keep that run time as long as they could, instead of burning storylines out.
But they still screwed up in the end. I feel like in the sense that I don't feel like Thousand Year Blood War arc was any more or less congested than the Naruto World War arc. Like in the end of the story was ultra congested. They introduced a pile of characters and a pile of powers, and then disposed of them in short order. Like that's exactly what Bleach did. They watched Bleach do it, and they said, "Hold my beer." The only reason that they got away with it in a way that Bleach didn't is that Bleach actually ended the story once already, and then they started the story up again.
Like, no reason.
That's it. Like if they had ended at the end of the Soul Society arc, then it would have worked. If they'd ended even after that, drawing it out with a bunch of shenanigans in Hueco it would have still. You could have ended it with bringing down Aizen, but no. Can't do that. We need to just
Aizen,
an entire new arc, whole cloth.
The Aizen arc ending in Hueco seemed to be where Kubo was like, okay, they're for sure he's going to let me go now, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what transpired because I mean, it's not like there weren't still mysteries, but they weren't the sort of mysteries that begged for explanation.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, there was no reason why. There's not even really any hints suggesting that, oh, well, Ichigo has to be this hybrid of all the major types of Reiatsu user in the setting. Like, that was not called for. It really wasn't.
There was absolutely no reason for that.
Like, you had already established that Aizen was a know-it-all. It was enough for him to have been able to rig the thing up by being a know-it-all. There was no need for all these other special additional circumstances to be involved. It's not like there weren't things that needed to be explained, like why did Ichigo's dad decide to ditch Soul Society? Like, it's easy enough to explain that simply by saying, oh well, he fell in love with a human woman. You don't actually need to tie that into a massive backstory for a set of characters you're going to kill immediately after introducing.
Yeah. It's just, it felt like such a good point to end it. I wasn't entirely happy with the way they did any of the Hueco arc. It felt very boring most of the time. But it was narratively, that is the perfect point where they could have been like, okay, Ichigo don't have powers anymore, Big Bad's been beat, order has been restored to the spiritual world. Great.
That was I think that probably part of the reason that it wasn't allowed to end there is that ending was rather bittersweet for the genre. It's like, oh yeah, this entire series has done all of the usual shonen things about the importance of Nakama and so on, and we're just going to make it so that Ichigo gets completely cut off from that world and never sees any of them ever again. Like, you can call that you can call that bittersweet because they did save the world and so on, and eventually Ichigo's going to cark it and he'll see them all again later because he's got enough power to not lose all of his memories as soon as he dies. But that's not normal for the genre to end it that way, where actually the hero loses everything that he's treasured throughout the series. That's not not the way it's supposed to go. And I wonder if he was told, no, you've got to give him his powers back, and so we end up with that weird, red-headed stepchild Fullbring arc, and then that only naturally leads on to something else.
I bailed out during the Fullbring arc sometime in the middle of that and read a summary later. I'm like, yeah, I don't care, and stopped following Bleach aside to go back and see what happened years later after it finished.
It was not good, man. It was quite memeable though because of the amount of swastikas.
Oh grief! You really got to wonder why they decided to put a filler arc right at the end. Blah. Anywho, where were we? Fire Force. Aside from just saying it's good, it's like they're out there. They're using pyrokinesis to fight fire monsters. That's the plot.
Pretty much.
That's a very simplified plot, but that's basically the plot.
How much of it have you watched anyway?
I'm in about episode 5, I think.
Right. Yeah, it does the usual shonen thing in that it starts off more or less with character intros and monster of the day.
Yeah, it's just done the first major arc, kind of explaining what Squad 8 is all about, which is kind of rooting out the corruption in the Fire Force by beating people up. So they've just taken out the 5th squad by beating people up, I guess.
Well, it is shonen.
It is
That's
shonen.
how you make friends.
It's kind of the done thing.
No, it's how you make friends.
This is also true.
You can't possibly be friends with someone without beating them to a bloody pulp first. That's just unheard of.
Is Weird Flower Lady going to become a friend now? Her and her weird eyes.
Yes, she is.
Oh dear.
Was I a friend? It's more like she develops a fixation on the main character.
Yeah.
Everybody else but him can go hang.
What I'm taking from this is, if I ever visit Japan, I need to just beat up everybody I find on the street to make a lot of friends.
Yes.
Yeah, if you take all of the wrong lessons away from shonen, that's exactly what you should do.
Don't actually do that.
Yeah, you might get arrested.
You'll certainly get arrested.
But yeah, it's very stock shonen. It hits all the usual beats. Like the arc they're currently in is the one where, they go into their first major engagement as pretty much a whole force. They get split up like you always do in shonen, and they all end up having to scrap against someone. So you get to see everybody strut their stuff.
Yep.
At least that's better than the trope in the way it used to be, where they would still remain as a group, but one guy would just be like, I got this, every time they would come to a mini-boss. Like, Rurouni Kenshin did it, Yu Yu Hakusho did it, Ranma did it. This was a trope in every thing that had any elements of combat in it for shows back in the day.
Yeah. There's also way too much, telling and not showing. Like, there's something really cool that happened, a fight that would have been really awesome to watch, and it all happened off screen.
That, or they'll have the background characters that are watching the dude that opted to take this mini-boss and explaining every little detail to the fight and every minuscule muscle movement and why it's significant.
But I mean, the
Dragon
thing
Ball
is
approach.
Even if you say that that's bad storytelling, the reality is that most of the audience enjoys that.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's bad storytelling. I'd say it's excessive storytelling.
I would say they're doing it better now. It led to something better, but for the time it was good.
Yeah.
Like everyone, I think half the fun is everybody stopping to monologue about their powers. That's half the fun. It's just that it stops being fun when they just monologue about how powerful they are, but when it's like you come up with some exceptionally convoluted and clever contrivance, then it can be quite entertaining.
Yeah, a lot of the time when it comes up in parody now, and it's it's very silly the way that it gets portrayed more often than not.
Yeah. I generally don't care if it's the characters doing it. It can be fun when they're doing it. It's when the backseat drivers to the fight are giving commentary that really bugs me.
Yeah.
And it totally kills the pace of the fight because in the split second, so many things are happening, but we have 30 years to explain all of it to you before that split second's over.
That's basically what Krillin's been doing for the last 20 years, isn't it?
In Nagima, they literally at the tournament arc, they literally just invite characters to be like guest commentators who are capable of explaining what's going on.
Yeah, you get it admittedly with Food Wars as well. It's a case of, oh no, here's stuff happening, but because we're actually watching people cook by and large is boring.
The thing is,
here's food science.
It's not a visual spectacle though, is it? It's taste based. They have to say what it tastes like. They don't have a choice.
The visual spectacle comes later when everyone's clothes start flying off.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's basically just to explain that, oh yeah, there's definitely something dramatic happening here, even though you can't see it.
Yeah. They've gotten a bit really, really silly with some of those.
That show is, however, the slowest paced shonen I have ever seen.
It really is. Like, when the cooking's happening, like, they've been doing this one cooking arc at the moment since halfway through the previous arc and the entirety of this current one. They've done
they've done as good as devoting an entire season's worth of content towards, like, you know, half of a tournament arc.
Yes. Although it does seem to at least be coming to a conclusion of sorts.
Maybe.
It will probably be another 4 episodes or so before the competition is actually over.
Yeah, I don't know where that's going in the end.
Yeah.
It's on one hand, it's too predictable. On the other hand, the question is whether or not they're going to try and subvert expectations or whether they're just going to play it completely straight.
There's a lot to be said for playing things completely straight, I suppose.
Honestly, I prefer when it's played straight most of the time, because most of the time when they're trying to subvert things, they do it in a ham-handed and uninteresting fashion.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd rather take something predictable but done well.
Yeah, I think that's generally the ticket.
All right, so that's been my week. It's been a nothing week.
Did you watch Demon Slayer?
I have not yet, actually. I've been meaning to.
Yeah, it's probably worth watching while you're on your shonen kick, because I think it's probably one of the best in a long time.
One more thing is, I did change gears and I watched that latest episode of Slime Time. The first warning sign comes when the episode is named, "Hey, Butts."
They're not leaving you in any doubt as to what the topic of this particular special is going to be.
It's all about butts.
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah, and yeah, it's teaching monsters how to sumo wrestle, and things just get sillier and sillier. Watching fish try to butt wrestle actually was the point I just lost it. Because I just saw that shot and because of what?
Yeah, I wonder if these guys were on the team which was supposed to be producing that anime that's about butt wrestling.
Oh,
and they were butthurt about no pun intended. They were butthurt about not getting to finish doing that series.
That's actually what that. Yes, it's the anime with the Gator Bootylon.
Because it seems very conspicuous that there would be a special for a completely unrelated anime that's ultimately all converges on butt wrestling.
Yeah. I wasn't actually expecting an episode of Slime Time to just pop out of the blue, but I'm so glad it did, sort of.
I think it's been floating around for a while, it's just that nobody had localized it.
Yeah.
Nobody had actually done a translation. I think it's probably like a bonus that got attached to some piece of merchandise or something.
Yeah, it's some kind of OAV DVD special or something, I think.
Yeah. Alright, so yeah. Volta, your week.
My week. What did I do during my week?
Waifus.
Yeah, mostly waifus, really. I just finally finished scraping through the 6th and final standard level of the Azure Lane event, the HoloLive themed one, which was rough. Like, generally speaking, it's recommended that you have 2 complete fleets ready to go before a major event, and I don't. So I'm pretty much behind the 8 ball, particularly on the last stage where pretty much most of my one of my fleets was pretty dramatically out leveled, which means you take a hefty dose of bonus damage from everything. So it was tough, but I scraped through in the end and managed to complete all the normal levels. I think probably the final one is likely to be out of my reach because it's like 20 levels higher again or something. So I don't think I'm going to be able to level that fast. But yeah, it's been reasonably entertaining, and it's like it was for FGO. The overly ambitious endeavor of trying to get through a event designed for people who have been playing the game when you've just more or less just started, that results in your levels getting jacked up pretty quickly, which will help when I go back to progressing the main storyline. Of the promo ships I've managed to get, I think there's 7 in total, and I've gotten like 4 or 5 of them now, I think. So whether through earning them from the event or through the gacha, I think I've actually got all of the rarest ones from the gacha pool. I just don't have any of the less rare ones. I just keep getting tons and tons and tons of dross that ends up getting turned into medals. But yeah, it's I feel somewhat accomplished for managing to make it through, but it involved a lot of grinding. I'll probably do a bit more grinding though on it still, so that I can leap my gear level ahead by pilfering rare stuff from the shop using tokens. And then I'll probably be able to start heading down the line on the main story without running into too many roadblocks, provided that I've got my fleet set up correctly. Anyway, well, that was a time waster as far as the mobile games go. My main focus has been, well, I say main focus, I only have limited free time, so I didn't make that much progress. But the new story Singularity for FGO has come out, Salem. And so far I'm really enjoying it. It's really quite well put together. I don't know why nobody ever speaks of it as being any good. Maybe it ends badly or something. I've only played like 3 or 4 chapters of it so far. But it's very different to their other Singularities that they've done. Like, generally you would say that the story really picks up pace and starts to get darker around Camelot. And it sort of falls off a cliff into cynicism territory in this particular entry, though. It's very different in pace and tone to the previous ones, because there's very little sense of going on an adventure the way there is in most of the previous Singularities. It's not like, oh, here's a Singularity, we go in and we travel around fighting things, and eventually we meet the boss and we beat him up and everything's okay again. Like, that's the rough outline most of the time for a Singularity. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's not so much. It's more like you're trapped in a room with a bunch of crazy people and you need to find out who's the mastermind before everybody's dead. Like, that's more or less how it goes. There's way, way more story, in the sense like you spend most of your time just reading compared to previous ones. Like, the battles are not very frequent in terms of total runtime, if you consider the runtime in terms of, oh, well, this is how fast you progress if you have the text moving on auto. In that sense, you spend most of your time by a huge margin reading text.
So they've continued their trend of cutting down the, hold that thought, master, there's a wave of skeletons approaching.
Yeah, they've dramatically cut it down. There are still, like, they remember that there's supposed to be game content now and again and send some zombies after you. But most of the time, and the other thing is worth noting is that the battles, at least so far, have been trivially easy. Like, really trivially easy. I don't think it's a product of the improved quality of my stable. It is to a certain extent, I'm sure, but most people who are playing Salem will have a really good lineup by that point. But the battles have been really trivially easy. There's very little challenge there at all. And if you aren't like me, whose primary AoE Berserker is a 3-star that has been grailed up to level 93, if you have a real AoE Berserker, you're probably going to be able to wreck shop on everything with almost no effort whatsoever. And I appreciate that, honestly, because the amount of time that I normally have to spend thinking about how I'm going to get through the next fight for some of these previous singularities, like, my goodness. I think maybe it's just to give you a bit of a rest, because you had to fight 7 really brutal boss fights in Shimosa. And so you had to think really carefully about how you were going to get through each and every one of them. So in this case, so far, I expect that there's some really nasty bosses later on in the story, but so far the battles have been conspicuously trivial. Like, we're talking, enemies which have 10 to 20k health, and they basically run up and attack you. Most of them are berserkers. The ones that are not berserkers are mostly assassins, and the theme of the singularity is casters, so casters get bonus bond. So it's expected that you're going to be heavy on casters, and they are throwing assassins at you willy-nilly. So it very much seems like they are, at least for the time being, trivializing the combat, unless there's like some storyline reason for it, which there may in fact be. Because they make a point of saying that, oh, well, when you finally manage to contact Chaldea again, because you've been cut off from them for most of the early part of the story, they say that, oh, well, actually, we had prepared much better than this, and you guys haven't been doing what you're supposed to. So the only conclusion we can make is that the botched ray shift has done something to your minds, and you aren't forming proper connections, reasoning, and conclusion, and you're behaving strangely as well. So, yeah, the underlying assumption is that you can't trust anything that you see.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's been interesting. People are dying left and right. Mostly NPCs of little consequence, but yeah, it's very dark in tone. They still occasionally do very silly things, like the group from Chaldea put on a play where it's about the 3 little pigs, but told with the 3 little pigs being replaced by Jean Alta, and Janta.
Yeah. How long after that did people start dying again?
It's like 5 minutes.
There you go.
It turned out, this is spoilers, but it turns out that them putting on that play had been being used by another character as a distraction while he killed.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Take all the silly times and ruin it.
Yeah. So it was it's a very, very grim in tone story compared to most of the previous ones, but I'm still enjoying it. I hope that it comes together well, because and even though I'm afraid that it might not, because people don't talk about it being particularly good, although it may just be that they don't like the tone. But I still think that I liked Camelot better, and I still think that I liked Babylonia better, but that's me with the benefit of being able to take those as complete stories, and not my current position where I only know a little bit of the story of Salem. And honestly, it's harder to gauge at this stage, because even this far in, there is lots of suggestions about who might be a antagonist, but there's no clear opponent, and that's sort of why everybody is losing their shit, is because they don't know who to fight. Traditionally, in Fate, you solve your problems by hitting them.
Yes.
And we can't do that because there's only innocent townspeople for the most part. There's nobody to punch. The zombies will show up occasionally, you can let off some steam, but most of the time it's just like, well, I mean, we can't exactly, and they have to stop Nessa from doing this several times. We can't just solve all our problems with violence, because you're just going to end up hurting innocent people. Because nobody knows what's going on, and it's been a huge problem. And the temptation is very strong to go and, off the inconvenient people, because they are causing problems, and it would be much easier to resolve the situation if you didn't have to deal with the chaos that they're causing in the meantime. But as the entire town descends into hysterics around you while you're trying to solve an occult mystery, things just get more and more confused. But it's been a very interesting story because of how different it is to the previous singularities. Especially it contrasts especially strongly with the previous one, because the previous one, Shimosa, was very, very straightforward. It's like they basically set up at the start. There are these swords masters, one for each servant class, and you need to go and kill each and every one of them, and then kill the final boss who's in charge. They tell you that straight up at the very beginning, and you do it.
It doesn't come much more straightforward than that.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of very, very constipated posturing involved to make it as dramatic as possible, but by and large, they set it up at the start like that, it proceeds like that, it ends like that. This one, it's a black box when you go in, and you basically run around like a headless chicken. Like I would say that I have the very strong feeling that, you know how there's a map that you navigate between stages in a singularity? Like, I don't even know what's on the map because it's so irrelevant.
Wow.
Because you aren't really traveling anywhere. You're just moving from the town hall back to the house, to the hill in the town, to the wharf in the town, and you're just moving between these different places. But you can't go anywhere because you're trapped. You're trapped with a bunch of crazy people. So yeah, it's a very interesting story, and it's a breath of fresh air. Actually, it's a breath of stale, moldy air, but it's different to the last breath. So it's been quite interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes, and I think that it's put together in such a way that I feel like you could probably animate it quite effectively. It lends itself well to that because it's got a fixed cast of characters that are always with you. Like, you don't. It's a lot of the other singularities. They assume that you've got, person X, person Y, and person Z with you, and some ambiguous collection of other servants to accommodate the gameplay conceit.
Yep.
But in this case, they just ignore the gameplay conceit entirely, and the story is told as though the only people you have with you are the ones that they specify in the narrative. And honestly, I'm totally okay with that because it allows me to use like a team of Ilya and Martha and Waver to completely pulverize whatever decides to show up. And then I can go back to as if I was actually fighting with Matahari and Sanson and Robin.
Nobody uses Matahari.
There are lots of people that grail Matahari to 100 and use her for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I can think of two that are prominent on the Friend Point Gacha.
Yes.
She's no longer the Friend Point Gacha mascot in Japan. She was very recently replaced. Which I'm sort of sad about in a way, because it was the only thing that Matahari was really queen of for the longest time.
Yeah.
But they changed it when they released a whole bunch of new low rarity servants. But it's a different way of telling the story to what they've done previously. Like, Shimosa explicitly says, oh, well, when you're in combat, you, as the master, summon additional servants to help you. That's just what you do. In this one, it's just like you've got this fixed group. You've got whoever happens to be geographically and narratively standing near you at the time is assumed to be whoever you picked for combat. So it's you've got Medea and Sanson and Matahari and Robin and Nezha, and I think that's it. That's your crew specifically chosen. Oh, you also have Mash with you, but she can't fight for reasons which are to do with the story towards the end of the first arc and the beginning of the second or first 0.5 arc.
They don't do something silly like take her out of your library or something, do they?
What? No.
Okay.
No. She's still there. Like the mash that you can use as a gameplay mechanic is always there. But for story reasons, Mash is unable to fight. But she basically begs to come along, and honestly makes herself into the single most valuable member of the party very quickly because she's so desperate to be helpful despite being unable to fight and feels that very keenly. She basically memorized every particle of information that there was about Salem before coming. But yeah, it's a good story. I'm enjoying it. I hope that it continues to be good and doesn't jump the shark at the last minute. But yeah, it's been quite interesting, and that's taken up quite a bit of my time. I'm the sort of person who builds a gaming PC and then streams their mobile to the monitor. So so yeah, that's me really. I don't think there's really much else that needs to be spoken of in particular. I don't think that I did anything else particularly notable.
All right. In that case,
All right. We're still not even in an hour yet, so
yeah. Do you want to just throw your week in now, and we'll do
yeah,
carry on afterwards?
I have another short week too because I was very busy. It was after Thanksgiving, so we were in the after Thanksgiving rush to get all the last minute orders before the Christmas flatline happens, because work will die like as soon as Christmas week hits. But before that, everybody needs to get their orders in right now.
Yeah. Because we can't plan ahead.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, well, it's more like, oh, I don't want to deal with this over Christmas. Let's just get it done now. And so what you wind up with is the weeks before and after the start of Christmas week and right after New Year's Day ends. Those weeks are a nightmare. And we're picking up and getting on that train right now. And we have a particularly bad one the week after Thanksgiving also thrown in there. So next week shouldn't be as bad. The next week's going to be a nightmare.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how I'm going to do anything that week. And then, so that's just the way it goes in the U.S. with most businesses is that full 7 days, nobody does anything from the 25th to the 1st.
Yep.
So the country effectively shuts down for 7 days. But that means there's stuff to do. And that means I'm stuck at work until every single day I've not gotten home when the hour says 5 in the PM. It has been later. It's always demoralizing the higher the hour number gets. Every one it goes up after 5 o'clock. It just hurts more and more the more I think about it. And I try not to look at the clock until I get home, and then I just feel all the bad at once instead of dealing with it over time.
I don't think I've ever gotten home when there's a 5 on the clock.
Nominally, our office closes at 5 o'clock. Realistically, you may not be able to call the phone at 5 o'clock, but I'm still working. Or I take my work home and work on it at home. So oftentimes, if you see me online earlier than 5 o'clock Eastern, it's because I took my work home because I don't want to the office and they're going to keep distracting me, and I need to get something done. But yeah, it's been a mess. So I only had time this week, really, to finish plating Cold Steel 3 and set up Trails in the Sky on PC. Just so I could have it ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start with the Cold Steel 3 and then talk about Sky. So this is the end of the Cold Steel for a while for me. I have platted all 3 games, and I did the 2-hour grind to get yourself to a high enough level where you can use palm bait to get yourself the rest of the way to get the max amount of bonuses going into the next title from file transfer. Because there are 2 rankings. So I had to do all the quests again. I couldn't just skip all the quests like I could in 2 for my Nightmare Mode playthrough and zip through the game. Because in Trails of Cold Steel 3, you have to have max AP, which is BP for those of you that played the Sky games. You have to have a max instructor rank, and you have to get to prestigious rank to get max rewards, which is separate from AP in that it affects how well the school gets developed, because you're starting up a branch campus and you're a new instructor there after graduating from the main campus and being a military soldier for a while as Reen. And so, of course, the only one that can advance the school and get funds and get people motivated to actually do something to build it up is you, Mr. Charisma Reen. And so you have to be sure you talk to everybody at the right times to get the school's rating maximized, and you get to prestigious rank. And then you have to get to level 76. Or you have to get Reen to level 76. Nobody else's level matters, which is very good because the availability of characters in Cold Steel 3 is more than any other game in the franchise so far that I've played.
More what now?
Sporadic.
Oh,
Who's
sporadic.
available is totally random almost in every chapter. Like, they will have some relation to what's going on, but until you know what the situation is with that chapter and where you're going and what you're doing, you ain't got a clue who's going to show up from the old Class 7 to be a part of your party, who's going to stick around, who's going to peace out and go do stuff on their own, which of the major side characters are going to stick around and be around for a while, and who's going to peace out. And then you get to the last dungeon, and if they required you to level up everybody, you would have to stop on the first floor and grind, because you will get to bosses in the last dungeon, and it would be mandatory to include 3 other party members in the attack formation for each boss fight going down. And there's a lot of them. So you eventually get down to just Reen and 3 members in the new Class 7. Everybody else gets stuck up top, fighting their respective battles with either Ouroboros members or people from the Jaeger Corps up in the north, the big super duper powerful ones, or whoever going down. And that's it. As soon as you fight that boss fight with those characters, they're out of the party forever until the end of the game, which is the end of the dungeon. So
Okay.
So I'm glad you don't have to do that, because the best enemies to grind for EXP are on the bottom floor. And you get, if you're doing a platinum playthrough, which in 2 playthroughs instead of 1, you have 4 free level ups. 4. And you have to get Reen to level 76. If you know how Trails EXP works and the scaling works, depending on how many levels you are above the enemy you're fighting, your EXP gets tanked down to double or single digits when you need 5 digits to level up. So, yeah, you need to save those palm baits to get your free level ups. But I got to the end of the dungeon, and it wasn't enough. I grinded up, and I used my 4 palm baits, and I wasn't even close. I had 2 more levels to go. And so I threw my hands up in the air and bought $2 worth of palm baits so that I could just get the next one. But I'm not sitting down. Like, I ground out enough to save me 1 purchase of another set of palm baits, and then I'm just like, screw it.
But you don't need to max it out.
But I put so much time into this series so far and so much effort over the last 2 months. I'm like, I want it to be 100% completely for realsies done at this point. And that means having a maximized clear data save for going into Cold Steel 4. Because you get items you can't get in the game, apparently, in Cold Steel 4 for having this. I'm like, all right, fine.
You do in Trails in the Sky, but I don't think the level is one of the criteria. I think that I number one, I got to the maximum transferable level effortlessly. Like,
yeah,
by the time I hit the end boss, I was about there or a bit above what was the minimum requirement, and the special stuff that you can't get in game that you get for doing a transfer is based entirely off your progression of side quests, the amount of bracelet points you've got.
Yeah, and 3 apparently takes the 3 to 4 takes the first chapter to second chapter approach, where the side quests you do are important because they change the story and add extra scenes and stuff. So you want to be sure you 100% Cold Steel 3. So thankfully, Cold Steel 3 is the easiest by far of all the Trails games that I've ever played. And that's because of the Brave Order mechanic, where you don't even consume a turn, but the BP you'll naturally accrue during battle, which you get from doing link attacks by hitting an enemy's weak, blow up and do an extra strike. You can hold up to 5 points of this, and you can spend it on Brave Orders that don't consume a turn, but have the most busted effects you've ever heard in your life. Like, if Instructor Sarah is in your party, the most famous busted one, she has the effect, all attacks, all actions have half delay on them, so you spend half as long performing the action on the turn bar as you normally would. All characters are accelerated, so every single character is moved above the next attacking enemy. And you get 50% dodge on everybody for 2 turns. Now, what you could do is there's 2 other characters with Accelerate as an AoE that normally costs a lot of CP. But you can just pop Sarah's thing and have them alternate accelerating while using all the BP you get from link attacking this whole time to have infinite turns, and the enemy never gets to move. You don't even need delay. You just take more turns than is reasonably allowed. So you can cheese ball your way through this game really easy. There's 800 different strats like that. It's even more busted than Cold Steel 1 and 2. So thankfully, the Nightmare Mode playthrough is a joke, effectively. There is no way to get around the busted mechanics. You're going to bump into one with whatever strategy you attach to. So you're not going to have a hard time with Cold Steel 3. In fact, I recommend playing it on hard. Abo was like, I don't know. Some of the other games can be pretty rough even on normal at certain points. I'm like, I know, but trust me, play it on hard. And he didn't. He's like, wow, you weren't kidding. This gets stupid.
You warned him, bro.
I warned him, bro. So, yeah. I did that. I got the Platy. I'm happy I got all that done. Cold Steel series is now behind me for the most part until they find of the next one, which will probably be either later this month or early in February when they do their 2 announcements for the end and start of the year. And we'll likely get Cold Steel 4 early next year or early year after next, so 2021 or late next year. It depends on how long they've had this one been working on since they just had Cold Steel 3 Gone Gold. If they already had it in development as soon as the 3 localization finishes, they might have it localized by the end of the year. But there's no way to localize these games quickly. These game scripts are huge. Absolutely massive, just because of the optional content in them. So, yeah. Looking forward to when that comes out, because that cliffhanger is going to eat at me until it does. But yeah, I think the Cold Steel series is a good point to get into the Trails universe if you've skipped out on the Sky series. You'll want to go back probably around the end of Cold Steel 2 and play a good chunk of Sky 1. I had that under my belt ahead of time, so I was okay. But if you don't know what the town of Hamel is and why it's important, you're not going to understand a lot of what's going on in Cold Steel 3. It's the only big requirement for the rest from the previous games. The rest you can infer what's going on pretty easily. But yeah, that's well, and Chapter 2 is not going to make a lick of sense to anybody in the West because it deals with an area that is the setting for the 2 unlocalized mainline games. But you just have to suck that up and zip through that chapter, or go read an online summary or something.
It's an important backstory.
Yeah, but it's not localized, and there's no way to play it in the US until the fan translations fixes get done. There are bad fan translations, and they're being fixed. The first one just finished, so that's available now, actually. So, yeah, that is what I pretty much can recommend on that series. And yeah, it's not a bad starting point as long as you start at Cold Steel 1. There is no jumping in the middle of any arc in this series. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. You've got to start at the beginning of an arc at the very least. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with that. And I think that is where I leave Cold Steel to sit until we get more information on it. It was a good time.
All
now,
right.
The other thing I did, Trails in the Sky, I figured I would want to go back and play through it at some point. And so I might as well get it set up, because I remembered the setup being a little obtuse. I forgot this was Xseed's first PC localization ever.
Every first PC localization looks like that, though. They always have we always end up back to grey boxes.
Yeah. Before you launch, the game won't even launch naturally out of Steam if you hit play. It's not going to work. You have to go to the config menu. That is an option when you click the play button. Launch that, and then meticulously play with all those options, launch the game, see they don't work, close it, and try again. This is...
Oh, dear.
This is a nightmare. Now, thankfully, for 1080p monitors and people that use a PS4 gamepad, if you need that information, I can just give it to you if you ever decide to play Trails in the Sky again, and tell you what I use. But, yeah, holy guacamole. That's, that was a nightmare. That took 2 hours. And a big part of it was, for once, Big Picture got in the way. Because Xseed had gone the extra mile with the Trails in the Sky localization on PC, and hard-coded controller stuff into the game. You still have to use the config menu to set it up, and they didn't change any of the UI in-game to accommodate. They hard-coded it into the game so that you could just load a controller naturally. That's okay, until Steam starts trying to help.
Yeah, that was a routine problem for me when I was using my DualShock 3 with my computer, because your go between software and your Steam Big Picture tend to get into a bit of a fist fight.
Mm-hmm. So number one, set up the controller in Big Picture to have a unique profile that just matches whatever the heck you set up in the config menu of the game itself. Close Big Picture and launch the game normally using that profile, not in Big Picture, and play it in borderless windowed mode at full screen. And that seemed to make it behave. With a DualShock 4 anyway. But to get from point of what the heck are you doing, Steam, to figuring out that's what you needed to do was a whole lot of trial and error, because all the FAQs on how to get stuff to work with this game aren't for after the big Steam update that had Big Picture, and the one that followed after that integrated some of Big Picture's features into the regular Steam. So there ain't any real FAQs on how to do this. So that's your answer. And it took me a stupid amount of time to get it figured out. But yeah. So that's set up now. I got myself into the prologue, heading down to the farm, which is a good point to put a save file. Got the characters set up and made sure everything works. And I'll pick that up whenever I feel into doing it again. I might pick it up soon, might pick it up later, might jump right into it. I haven't really decided yet. I've just I wanted it working for when I did decide to do it. But yeah, right. that was a mess. So good luck with that. If you need help setting it up, I can help you. 10 minutes of me just telling you what to make each setting, rather than you trying to trial and error it yourself until you get something to work. It's a bit dumb.
Man, it's been a while since I've had to wrestle with a game like that.
It was Xseed's first PC localization, and it was the first, and it's just old. And Steam has implemented new ways to try and help when Xseed had already thought of this ahead of time.
Giant air quotes, help.
Yeah, so Steam tries to help when Xseed's like, we already got that, bro. No, stop.
No, stop. You're not helping.
Stop helping. Stop helping. And it's very difficult to get Steam to try and stop helping, because it thinks nowadays when you launch a game, it needs to have a profile for a controller. And in modern games, it'll just read if the game has it. But Sky is so old that there's no file for it to tell it, don't worry, bro, we already got this. And it's a hybrid jank PSP to PC port. So it doesn't have anything like that can give it the thumbs up. We got this, yo.
Yeah. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
So yeah, a bit of a mess, but I'm looking forward to the playthrough eventually. I don't know when I'll get to it. These games are very long, and I don't want to give myself Trails burnout, because I really do enjoy the franchise so far. But yeah, that's really it. And that did not take a lot of time to do any of that, other than the 2 hours of grinding to make it so I only had to buy one extra shiny palm bait in Cold Steel 3, and setting up Trails in the Sky. I haven't done anything. Just been working.
We are terrible at doing stuff.
It's just a busy time of year.
Yeah, it is. All right, we should probably take a break then.
Yep, we're at a good stopping point. So that's the end of my week. So when we some news for you, what I managed to dig up, which ain't a lot this week, but we'll see where it goes. And we'll be right back after some music.
Oh, there we go. Okay, now we're back.
And we're back.
There you go.
Second time's a charm.
Things should say
So-
clicked when I clicked them.
So,
People die when they're killed.
yeah. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
That's not true in any fiction franchise ever.
Is provably false. All right.
So,
We
I'm
have-
almost sure I saw an anime recently which actually did a line which is like, he didn't die when we killed him.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I think even Fate's making fun of that at this point.
Yeah, well, Fate seems to have gone out of its way to have at least one wall banger of a state the obvious line in every series.
Yeah. Usually said by the last person you'd expect it to.
The archer class really is full of archers.
Indeed it is.
That's my favorite one, because it's not true.
It is not even remotely true.
There's like 2 guys in the entire archer class who actually use a bow.
Yes. Like, come on. Robin, he uses this weird wrist crossbow thing. Emiya, enough said.
He can use a bow, he just typically doesn't.
He typically doesn't. He tends to throw swords.
I think in like 2 routes he pulls it out once in the original Fate Stay Night.
Yeah. He does that, takes that crack shot at Medea with it.
Yeah, he
And
shoots
that's
Medea,
about it.
and he does the big explosion on Hercules.
That's right.
But that's it.
That's
Oh yeah. So yeah, meme time.
Meme time.
So no more meme time actually.
Oh.
But we got news.
All right.
Wow, sort of.
Well,
So we were all so busy this week that the news collection started like 24 minutes before the show was supposed to start. Or 19 minutes before the show was supposed to start.
Real talk, if we'd been searching all week, we probably wouldn't have found anything more.
I'd
no.
been keeping an eye out and I'd seen nothing.
Yeah,
So
it just
I-
was not much of a busy week for anybody other than us.
Yeah, so we were all busy and we got anything and we were salty that we have jobs that make us actually have to work. And so, yeah, the news this week is just what I found in 19 minutes, skimming every major news outlet that we use and grabbing anything that looked like we might be able to tangent on it.
Yeah. And then, yeah, there's probably a couple of other little bits and pieces we can tangent off without articles. Alright, well, let's see. I'm not sure if I really want to talk about the one if we start at the bottom of the list.
Oh, I want to talk about this one.
All right,
looking
go
at
for
my
it.
list. I'm still trying to find it. Here we go.
Johnny Young Bosch
Bottom.
is doing a thing. Or he's having a thing
Wait.
done to him.
So there's backstory to this that you probably don't have, Fern, and I'll give it to you in brief. Johnny Young Bosch was the person Vic Mignogna wanted to be his successor if he ever had to hand over this particular role.
Mm-hmm.
He had talked to Bosch about it before, and Bosch is the one that got the role. So nobody's too upset that they replaced, because Vic was going to be replaced in this role. There was no avoiding that it was Johnny Young Bosch. Nobody's mad about that on the I Stand With Vic side at all. unless they're just reading monsters that don't actually know what's going on. So this in and of itself is fine. What happened was, because of the sheer beacon that the Vic thing was within that small community and the anime community at large, Johnny Young Bosch, getting support from most of the I Stand With Vic people, immediately snapped the Kick Vic people into opposing him because they have to oppose on principle.
Are they animals?
Yes.
Like they're just reacting like dumb beasts, basically.
Reacting.
It's like, this is something hostile, I need to attack it.
Yeah. So, I do not know what Johnny Young Bosch's politics are. I have avoided looking at him because, honestly, he's not in too many roles that I super really like.
If it is at all possible to avoid looking at the politics of anybody with any level of celebrity, it's usually better to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they're somebody that you like. You don't want to know, trust me.
Yeah, so it's a thing where he has been fairly inoffensive in all of this. And in fact, most of his whole life, he's just been the cool dude that was the Red Power Ranger and got a bunch of voice acting roles. That's pretty much been his job.
Well, one should not look down on, being professional rather than trying to mix your work and your ideology all the time. Like, he's just doing what you're supposed to do. He's not doing anything special.
Yeah, at worst, he might have said one or two woke comments on Twitter, and I have.
I mean, he's allowed to say that, but he's not, as long as he doesn't let it contaminate his work.
Yeah, and he doesn't at all, and he didn't go after his own fans, and he never has. He's just been a nice guy, and in general, his con appearances are well regarded. People like JYB. He's a cool dude. He'll say like how Nero is dummy thick in Nero's voice if somebody asks him at a convention or whatever. The dude's cool with anything.
Why?
It was asked, and there's a recording of it, and it's on the top of the DMC5 Reddit.
Why was it asked?
I don't know, but it was.
Some things are just not necessary.
No, and it doesn't make sense. It's for Nero's character, but he did it. So, yeah, in general, I have a fairly high opinion of JYB from the information I have on him right now. He seems to be a professional that does a good job and has good interactions with the fans. So Kick Vic came in, and people associated with Kick Vic, and they started trying to level accusations at him.
Because of course I did.
They don't have anything better to do.
And this is where I think JYB did what was the correct response, and Vic's adamant pacifism bit him in the butt, and why he wound up in this situation in the first place. Because JYB told these people to go jump in a well.
Good.
And
that's probably too nice for them, but that's the classy way to go.
yeah, that isn't exactly what he said. It's many tweets, but basically, he says, "All right, that's BS. I was actually here during this. Here's a list of all the people involved. Ask any of them. What you're saying is objectively wrong. Oh, by the way, I don't even think the person you're saying accused me or got assaulted by me exists, because they don't. And all the other people here can confirm that none of this happened." And he came out with the call out right away, with hard evidence, with people supporting him and backing him in the industry that were there at the event, saying, or that for wherever this first big accusation came from. And they basically told these people, go F off. You're wrong. And took the personal attack seriously. And just, I guess JYB might be more sensitive to it because he knows what happened to Vic. He might have, in yonder days, let this blow over and not said anything. But after seeing what's happened to the last guy that this happened to, he might be on the ball with it and be like, no, we need to punch this in the face now.
I don't know whether or not he's thought very much about it. I don't think that that's even really necessary. It seems like this is just one of the library of totally reasonable responses as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, like you could either ignore it or you could shut it down hard immediately.
Like, because whether you ignore it or shut it down hard is not really going to make any difference in the long run, I don't think. Like I said, I think that these people are animals. They're just going to react in arbitrary ways to things based on instinct. They aren't thinking about what happened or what people say or anything like that. Just they're creating a story in their heads, and that will be the story that informs their actions. I don't actually think him denouncing them like this will impact anything. I think that what will happen is what will happen regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that they're just going to go and do their thing, and if they decide that they're going to try and break down his career as well, I mean, people have seen it happen once before now, and you're going to see that would just simply prompt a drift further in the direction of supporting.
Yeah, and yeah, so JYB is the new voice actor for Broly. I don't have a problem with this since the role had to change hands. Vic's not going back to work for Funimation, even if he wins everything.
I don't think
Funimation
JYP's is good.
I don't either, but I think Vic is a much better and talented voice actor in general. But JYB does some roles just fine. He does Lelouch just fine. He does Nero just fine.
I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm just saying that Vic's better. Like Vic is sort of A tier, and I feel like JYB sort of A minus tier.
Yeah, there are very few truly exceptional voice actors that I think are out there, and the only two I have in S tier are Ruben Langdon and Crispin Freeman. In terms of raw talent, I'm sure both of them are cool. Ruben's a crazy hippie and travels the world and gets shot at, and jokes about how he activated Royal Guard and with bullet holes in his car while he went to some third world country. And I'm pretty sure Crispin Freeman's woke as woke can be, but I'm choosing not to look at his politics because I like his acting.
As long as they're not trying to ram their politics down the neck, that's fine. Just, believe what you want.
Yeah, so... But, Vic has always delivered good, and JYB has always done just fine, so I do not see a problem with Vic. We got basically the best we could hope for on the Funimation side by getting JYB. So any stand with Victors that are mad about JYB replacing him, or mad at JYB for replacing Vic specifically, what are you doing?
Well, I mean... This is the logical move for Funimation, because Funimation doesn't actually care about anything that people have said Vic does. Like, all of their moves were aimed purely about trying to do damage control. They had misapprehensions about the sort of damage that's taking place and what needs to be controlled, but that's all that they're really interested in. If there is a person who is already being coached for the role, of course they're going to pick that person, especially when he's already within their stable.
Yeah, and so... we got the guy that Vic wanted. This is good. So chill out if you're on the Stand with Vic side. But yeah, it's been a mess with that. And yeah, I think JYB has had the better approach in general for everything
I think that it is the better approach, but I feel like that's a matter of taste. I don't think that it's actually going to affect any of the outcomes. I think that it's just the better way of doing things, and I know Vic has his own way, and I think that it's just because Vic is old. I think that's why he took that approach. Like he's probably seen his share of combativeness over the years, and he just doesn't. He thought that the low energy approach would prevent him having to expend more energy, and it turned out not the case. But I don't think that there's actually going to be a difference in the outcomes. But I do like JYB's approach better because I'm more inclined to the combative approach. I feel like you should punch back at these people.
Yeah, the one thing you don't do is let it build momentum.
Yeah, like if you say nothing, then they can just add all types of things on top of that. And you know, by the time that Vic denounced all of the claims, people had already decided what was true. Mm-hmm. So the bystanders got dragged in. The reason why I think that this is not going to affect anything is that there are no bystanders anymore. Like there's no undecideds left to be drawn over to one side or the other. Everybody involved in this whole Broly debacle is already on one side or the other. So I don't think that JYB's approach will do anything. If JYB had been in Vic's position and had reacted like this at that time, maybe the result would be. But the way things are now, I don't think that's the case, because most people have decided, like, even though most people, even on the I Stand with Vic's side, haven't decided whether or not they think Vic is guilty, they have decided that they aren't going to lynch him based on arbitrary accusations. So there's not really anybody left who is undecided about which side to stand on.
Yeah, and all it comes down to is, do you believe in due process or not? That's what it means at the end of the day. Do you want the Twitter mob to have this power, or do you not?
Yeah, this is the cancel culture thing. You're either on board with it or you're not. It's not something that you can have, one rule for me and another for thee. Like you've got to decide whether you think it's okay for that to happen. That somebody can just decide to ruin your career and then do it using the power of social media, and that it's okay because they've got the power to do so.
Speaking of which, Little Miss Cancel Culture Mars Girl, who started this whole debacle with the hashtag, she got banned from Twitter this past week.
There's something completely unrelated, wasn't it?
Yeah, she had said something that violated their infinite rules you break by just speaking cordially nowadays, and they got her banned.
Yeah, and I don't think it was anybody involved in any of the situations she stirred up. It was just, the uncautious tongue getting her in trouble.
Yeah. So, ooh-wee. Been a startup of a bit of things for KickVic and the Stanley Fix situation, but it's probably still going to be frozen until we get another court date.
I expect it to be frozen for the better part of a year from this point.
Yeah.
Because courts, from what I've seen throughout my life, courts move at a pace that makes glaciers look bouncy and enthusiastic, like a Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah. We had Nick was constantly commenting on how fast this thing was moving when it first was going, and now that we're stuck waiting on the appeals court, and
people's expectations have been a little bit dented.
Yeah, you got to temper your expectations now. It's going to take some time. So until that appeals court hearing comes up, nothing's going to come of this. And then after that appeals court hearing, we got to go back to, well, it might pick up after that because we got to deal with exceptional lawyers again and go back to Chubb. So
it's technically possible that Chubb won't be the one handling it. It's not likely, but it's possible.
Yeah, he could choose to recuse himself from the case, or he could choose to, or he could just be slapped on the face because he's had so many appeals go through at this point. He's had at least 2 or 3 at this point that were successfully appealed.
Well, that would require him to lose an election, basically. So I don't think that unless the appeals court takes a really long time, he probably won't have the chance to drop out entirely. It is possible though. It may be that the appeals court specifically hands down a decision that they don't want him to have. It's not like, but it's something that does happen, and he can also opt not to, which is what's happening in Australia right now because nobody wants to be a judge on the Cardinal Pell appeal.
Yeah,
because there's a blatant miscarriage of justice has taken place, and either they have to overturn the judgment and get lynched in the press, or go with the miscarriage of justice and carry the fact that they're a crooked judge with them for the rest of their life.
Well, there's already 2 who are going to cop that.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Cardinal Pell doesn't have very many friends in the media, so.
No, he does not. Ugh.
So yeah, that's just a little Vic story that was up in that saga. So that anime continues after this little special that it just put out, and we'll tune back in as soon as the appeals court starts.
I think Funimation should have just gone ahead and used all the stuff Vic had recorded. Sod them. But the reality is the person in charge is probably a frothing lunatic, so I don't know who's directing it, but it's probably one of the loony bin.
Yeah, or Broly might have had custom voice lines in Dragon Ball FighterZ more than screaming. He might have a mini campaign or something, so they had to record a different voice actor or something. There's a lot of reasons that it could be, but we just don't have that information from high up at whoever's at Arc System Works or Funimation. So yeah, that's that anime. Now the next thing, y'all want to pick it or you want me to?
I don't have the energy to pick. You pick.
I'm
tired. I felt tired all week, actually, even though I haven't had to work as hard as many weeks in the past. I just feel worn out. I think this is just end of the year syndrome.
Yeah, there's a good amount of that.
Let's see here. We can wrap up this one as Cold Steel 3 is coming to Switch. So if you have a Switch, you can not play Cold Steel 1 and 2 on Switch, so I don't know why they're even trying. Yeah, they're really trying to say you can play this one first. You can't.
it's super weird. I don't know why they do that stuff. Like, come on, all of these well, I mean, if you look at what the purpose is, really, like the purpose of a franchise is, like this is to suck people into that world and keep them coming back over and over again. Like, it's even if you could just jump in and you weren't too lost in Trails of Cold Steel 3, that's not what it's for. It's not what the Trails series is for. You're supposed to really get absorbed by that world. If you play the third one, you're simply going to want to play the other. That's the whole point. If you like it, I would say that that there are very few people who will like Trails 3 and not have wanted to play the other one.
Yeah, and there is no option for that on the Switch. The only available places you can play the other games, you can play the Sky series on PC, and PC, and PC. You can play Cold Steel on PS4 or PC. Or not Cold Steel 4, sorry, Cold Steel 1 and 2 on PS4 or PC. That's it. And the PS4 versions are ports of early PS3 games. So you should know what you're getting into.
Have fun with that.
At least they have a turbo button, so I do recommend the PS4 version. God bless Falcom and their turbo button.
Really, you really couldn't be any happier about that, could you?
No, I love the turbo button so much.
That was the very, very first thing that you said to me after you installed Trails in the Sky Chapter 1 the very first time. Was you just gushed for like 10 minutes about how great that was. You hadn't even played the game. You were just gushing about how great the turbo button was.
It's just the greatest JRPG invention for us old folks who don't have as much time to play them anymore. I don't have time to run through this whole field at normal speed.
Gotta skip all the rubbish.
Engage warp speed.
There was a time that I don't think you got this far, but there was a time in Trails in the Sky 1 where I was supposed to go and do something at a hot springs resort at one end of the map and then return to the city at the other end of the map, and I forgot to complete the last Talkie 2 thing before heading back to the city. And I probably, if there hadn't been a turbo button to allow me to rush all the way back across the map back down to the hot springs place after I realised I'd made the enormous round trip without doing it correctly, I probably would have just shut the game down for the day.
Yeah, that turbo button makes so many parts of these games that would be just that we don't have time anymore, and time is now a resource. Just go, ugh. It even makes the grinding, and I like that in Sky you can set the speed up. So I make battles at 6 times speed in Sky.
Whee!
So battles just zip by.
Unless you're Abo.
Unless you're Abo, in which you never push the turbo button and fly the inevitable airship around to every single city after every single story beat and talk to every single NPC to be sure you didn't miss anything.
Oh, right. Yeah, make sure you talk to all of the chests after you empty them out.
Yeah, you got to. You got to get the achievement for it is called Treasure Chest Council.
I didn't know about it, so I didn't, but some of the best gags are in those treasure chests.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an odd place to put them.
They brought the chest gags back for Cold Steel 2. They weren't in Cold Steel 1, but only for certain chests, and because they require you to have certain members in your party to open them. And if you don't have those members, gag using those party members as a base, and they're all really seriously funny. Like, one is just the skill names of the resident reformist student and the noble student, and using all their ability names to describe a yaoi situation.
Oh my!
Despite how they hate each other,
that's awful.
Why would you do this?
They're that edgy or that ridiculous every single time, and it totally hits.
Oh no!
So they're not in Cold Steel 3 though. Unfortunately, they got rid of them again. But yeah. So that's that one. Just a bit of more gushing about Trails, and then we have. I guess I'll keep going. Let's see. We have the Hollow Knight Piano Collection is coming to vinyl.
So you can be traumatized all over again if you're a vinyl person.
Yeah.
You can listen to that song about the song from that last thing that you hear the opening bars of 5 billion times.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
put it all on loop on your vinyl. And,
Can you put things on loop on vinyl? I don't know if you can. I think you've got to move the arm back to the.
my vinyl player has a record position function and a end record position function, and so if you do that, you can loop it,
I see.
and it will just automatically spin the thing back to where it was and move the arm back to the spot it was at before. So you can loop it on vinyl. But yeah, that's it makes me happy that Team Cherry has had so much success just by being a good company that they're able to put out a full double vinyl pack for Hollow Knight. It's just extra content.
Nice.
It is nice.
It is very nice.
So yeah, it's just it's something that I'm very happy for them that they have finally got the resources to do all this stuff with their game, and they didn't get it through underhanded means, which is the super exception. Just by being a good company, they now have the funds to just release this random crap that people said would be a nice, cool thing maybe one day. So yeah, good on you, Team Cherry. The one good thing out of your country that isn't trying to kill people except in video games, Fern.
All right.
So
let's move it on then. There's another article I don't want to talk about.
I've been going from the bottom up, but you can pick any of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too, and yeah, I don't want to talk about that one. Twitter has acknowledged that they're shadow banning people by sticking it in their terms of service.
Yeah, so this is mildly related to gaming, and that a good chunk of gaming news comes from people saying crap on Twitter.
Stupid crap on Twitter.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of stupid crap on Twitter, but now they can just shadow ban.
Implying that they weren't already doing.
Yeah, it's just legally covering their butts for when the inevitable investigation happens.
Well, it's because so many other people, like, you know, that guy, what's his name? The lizard person.
Which one?
Zuckerberg.
That one.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, like, because wasn't it him? I don't know if it was him, but I think that there was somebody of sort of like one of those high-profile owners of those things, which was like, they were outright asked in a legal situation if they shadow banned people, and they said no, and they blatantly were, and it was shown later that they were. So that sort of like put them in a difficult position.
Yes. Honestly, anytime Zuckerberg comes out in public to speak, I immediately assume he's lying. Aside from the fact that he's just got one of those faces,
He's a lizard person.
He is a lizard person. He doesn't seem like he lives on this planet.
The most trustworthy news that Zuckerberg is involved in is the debate between whether he's a robot or a lizard person.
Crab people?
I haven't seen that one. I only see a robot or lizard people.
He doesn't have a shell, and we suspect that his legs don't have joints.
I'm not even sure if he has legs.
It could be. He could be on stilts. He could
Have
just
you
be
seen?
a crab in a human suit or something.
I mean, the eyes are the window to the soul, and you look at Mark Zuckerberg, and there ain't one.
Yeah. All right, let's split the difference. He's a lizard piloting a robot. Done. Okay. We have the death of a card game, console edition of Gwent. He's going bye-byes tomorrow.
Not as bad as So not as bad as you would think, though. They are giving everybody who had that version of the game a code to punch in good old games to get the PC version and move the junk over.
Okay.
Yeah, probably it's just the popularity of it on that platform does not justify the investing the resources to continue the development. That's probably the deal.
Yeah.
So
You don't really buy a console to play card games on it, admittedly.
Yeah, typically not.
Yeah, I mean, I got it on PS4, but that's because it had a special week on PS4 where everything was super deep discount for the card packs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And and got into it then. I was also playing The Witcher 3 at the time, so I got stuck playing Gwent more than actually playing The Witcher 3, so I just downloaded the Gwent game.
Another round of Gwent.
Another round of Gwent.
Damn you, Miracle of Sound.
Yep. Well, just Gwent, but with some RPG bits between the Gwent games.
Yes, it's just Gwent with fiddly middle bits.
speaking of, there is a Hearthstone-like card game in Trails of Cold Steel 3, but unlike Gwent, you can't get into it because the AI is the dumbest card game AI you've ever seen in your life. I'm pretty sure it's just told, even on Nightmare mode, to just make random moves and hope it works.
See, normally when
Like-
an AI is bad for a card game like that, it cheats.
Yeah, so you know how in Hearthstone when you attack something it loses health, and you lose health based on the attack of the two monsters?
Yep.
Well, in the Cold Steel Hearthstone, that same interaction can happen, but the attacker keeps their full attack value, and the defender loses 1 from their attack value. So the defending card does 1 less damage. So I've had just tons of dudes, AI opponents, suicide into a card I have that gains 1 attack for any enemy it killed, and do no damage to it. Accomplish literally nothing other than killing their own monster and boosting my guy's attack.
Oh dear. I mean, that would work, I suppose, in Magic if you just want to get a card off the field because it's useless. But if you're boosting your enemy's attack while doing it, that's a bad idea.
And yeah, these games are so short and so simple. There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
You want as many cards on the field at all time. It's just, yeah, holy crap. So Gwent, it's sad to see it go from PS4 because I didn't think it was a novel thing I could boot up once in a blue moon and play. But the fact that I get to carry my progress to PC if I want to do that same, it lessens the blow quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Gwent was one of the better card games out there in this card game boom. I genuinely thought the full, in its early cycles anyway, I haven't played the later cycle, has been one of the better choices to get attached to because it just has the right mechanics and the right balance and everything. The guys that put it together knew what a card game was, basically.
Yes. Looking at you, Blizzard.
Yeah, like, so not Blizzard tier or side games and other things tier. So yeah, it was genuinely good. So I'm glad we can carry it over. Although I don't imagine it's lasting very long because I've heard no buzz about it. Even on PC, it might die within a couple years. I don't think it'll stay alive for very long.
Yeah, I just didn't get that fad appeal that Hearthstone managed to catch.
Yeah, if only Hearthstone hadn't shot the entire boom in the face by going full just dumb. You know what I wanted to say with its
Yes.
Well,
with its releases, and then have the Blitzchung back.
I had the distinct impression, and it was just an impression, I don't have any evidence of this, but I got the distinct impression based on things that had been said that as soon as Hearthstone turned out to be successful, the bean counters put a massive amount of pressure on development to try and hoover up as much money as possible as fast as possible. Like, as soon as they realized that this was had the potential to be a gold mine, they just squeezed them until there was nothing left.
I can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be how Blizzard operated, still operates for the last 10 years.
Yeah. So yeah, we got some really dumb decisions and poorly thought out ideas in Hearthstone. Stuff that any amount of testing could have told you was a bad idea.
Yeah, if they'd done any.
Yeah, like all you need is canned meta decks, all the pre-canned Funzy decks, and have 2 testers sit there and play 20 games with each of them against all the different variants and of whatever you're releasing, and you'll know immediately how the existing fan base is going to take whatever you release. That's all they had to do. This would have taken not very long, maybe 2 days of testing, and the games didn't even get that much. These new sets clearly did not have that done. So yeah, we'll come back to card games in a bit because another one's dying, I think.
Might as well jump over and hit that.
Yep. So Bethesda has also shot their card game in the foot or in the face.
This was the situation, by the way. The announcement of this original announcement of this game was the thing that I feel like Blizzard was saying, "Hold my beer," when they did the Diablo Immortal announcement, because that was the crown holder for maximum crowd disappointment until Diablo Immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Like, there's a few people who kind of got excited about Elder Scrolls Legends, but yeah.
those are diehard universe fans, and most of the people that were casual fans of the universe have long since abandoned. So it doesn't have any real hype about it anymore.
That's because
Well,
Bethesda cannibalized their fan base.
A game like that requires you to have community penetration, and you can't. Generally speaking, you can't count on people to play multiple different incarnations of the on the PC or console card game. You're pretty much trying to sell a card game to your extant fans of your franchise, so it has to be monstrously compelling to get them to stay if there's already a market that's glutted with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just another Elder Scrolls Legends was just another card game in this card game boom that nobody cared about, and it's going the way of the dodo. All their whole roadmap for whatever they had gone. Just they're done. Bethesda's probably mostly due to Bethesda absolutely messing up that they can't even keep their current timeline and losing money because of it. There's no feasible way to actually fund this thing anymore, so they're axing it. It's going to be no more updates, period. We don't know when the servers are going offline, but they're not doing any more updates.
Oh, that's another one down.
That's basically the death of a card game.
All right.
Honestly, it was sort of a stillborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Whereas we got Nintendo adding a bunch of new stuff to their Switch library. I'm actually quite enjoying this system now because it's got quite a lot of good games in it.
Yeah, I started to like it a bit when I was poking at some of the games. The reason I put this here, though, is because no re-release of anything should have Breath of Fire 2 front and center.
I don't know anything about it.
It is the worst localized game.
I don't know. I think it's worth playing just for the terrible localization, just to see all the English.
It was the first Breath of Fire game I played, and it took me forever to beat the game because I didn't understand what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just I was a dumb kid. No. I went back and no, it wasn't that I was a dumb kid. The game literally is translated so badly that they do not have any way to tell you what's going on or what you need to do.
Yeah.
It is a bad video game. Well, it's a good video game if you play the fan patch, apparently. But I wouldn't know, because I played the official localization, and it was bad.
Yeah.
So that's on there. Star Fox 2, novelty game that didn't get released. Got whatever. Kirby Superstar, classic game. People love that one. NES Punch-Out, niche game for the Punch-Out fans. I like Punch-Out. I don't like Super Punch-Out very much, though.
Is that before or after they took out Mike Tyson?
Way after.
Okay.
Yeah, they took out Mike Tyson in the original NES Punch-Out with Mr. Dream when the contract expired.
Yeah. That's
because he had just become the heavyweight champion after they contracted him, so they lucked out. And then not too long after that, the ear bitey thing came up, and he became toxic.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
So they elected not to relicense with Mike Tyson and replaced him with Mr. Dream
because of the ear biting thing, largely.
Yeah.
Yep. We've got a couple of rather niche games, actually. Games you probably haven't heard of: Journey to Silius and Crystallis.
I've heard of this game existing, but never played it.
Yeah. Journey to Silius looks like could be interesting, but I also see Sunsoft on there, and they had a legacy of making notoriously difficult games.
It's probably why I've heard about it, but never played it.
Yeah.
Still trying to find where we are in the news list.
We're going from the bottom up, but yeah, we're We're right in the middle of it, going from the bottom up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's a thing. Getting some more games. Only reason I put this here was to rag about on Breath of Fire 2.
Yeah. At least Nintendo seems to have gotten a good head on their shoulders with how their Switch system works. Like, it's super cheap and you get access to all their old library. Instead of, how they've done the Virtual Console where it was $30 and you get to play Kirby Superstar again.
And you have to pay for each game individually for games that we bought over 2 decades ago.
Yeah, that you're not really. All you're doing is encouraging emulation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was little reason to actually buy them.
Yeah, like I was like, how much you want? Like $1 to download it again? Okay, I could get 15 for an NES game. What? No,
it's not exactly state of the art anymore.
Yeah, it's not even for a good NES game. Like, some of their really good first-party ones were even more expensive.
Yeah, you need to pay like $25 or $30 for Original Legend of Zelda. I'm like, oh no. Hey, NES.emu, what you got? So yeah, it's a bit of a mess with that one, but they seem to have got their head screwed on right and just put everything in this package, in this service, and they're just porting games over to it whenever they get the free time.
Yeah, which is the ideal way to do it.
Yeah, so it's that's a good way to tackle the problem when they realize, oh wait, nobody wants to pay $15 to buy Punch-Out again.
Yeah.
Like, you're charging me as much as Hollow Knight costs for an NES game. No. So yeah, that's a thing. Moving on to the next one.
What's next?
This isn't that surprising. In fact, it's expected, but it's more ragging on the Epic Game Store.
It's been a while since we've done that.
So the CEO of Epic has a few words for us. There are quotes, but I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to give you the summary. Basically, the Epic Game Store is going to include inbuilt system tools for developers to set up microtransactions within the Epic Game Store.
Because nothing says scum like microtransactions.
Now, I get it with this. I would make this decision if I was designing the Epic Game Store as well, but I would make sure it doesn't get an announcement from my CEO.
I'm surprised that they're even giving them the option to opt out of it. That's what surprised me.
That is true.
I expected that they were just going to ram it down the throats of the people trying to sell on their platform no matter what they did.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mess. But yeah, the biggest shocker to me was that they announced it. This is something that if you're in marketing, you go, okay, this is too good not to pass up. We should totally do this as soon as the idea hits your brain. But the other thing you do is go to your CEO and say, make sure nobody says a dang word about this because the PR is going to be a nightmare.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they've exhibited such a total obliviousness to any kind of optics so far that maybe they think that this is actually a PR win.
Yeah. These companies seem deluded into thinking that the mass outcry whenever they do something wrong is just, oh, it's just a bunch of internet trolls is always the dismissal now. And like, no, those are your customers. You idiot. You don't know what the word troll means.
Well, I mean, to a lot of these companies, though, their customer is some kid's mother's credit card.
Yeah.
So.
On the plus side, I suppose at least they're bringing up front about it.
No.
Well, it's not much of a plus.
I'm trying to find a silver lining, but yeah.
Well, the silver lining is that they didn't make it mandatory for the developer to use their system. They're allowed to go off and independently develop their own microtransaction distribution system.
They didn't just try and push it under the door and run away either.
Yeah, I honestly expected that they would have that as part of the deal of selling on their platform. Oh, and you also have to give us residuals from your microtransaction.
Yeah.
I'm sort of surprised that they didn't. But the thing is, I'm about 80% sure that they are still internally they're convinced that they're the good guys.
Ugh.
I don't think that they realize that they're being cynical at all for the most part. I think that they think that they're really, doing a good thing for everybody, and that they just live in that fantasy world.
To give context into what they probably think, it's like Walmart's been around forever and doing a fine job. Okay, Walmart needs a competitor. Let's open Kmart, but the Kmart is evil and thinks it's a hero for fighting the big Walmart. That's exactly what Epic Games Store comes off as.
But how are the land whales going to know where to shop?
What?
I don't know. We're going with that. We only have Kmart here, so
We've got a Kmart, but it's not the same Kmart, and it's worse.
is it? So there's more than one Kmart. Is Australian Kmart owned by different people to New Zealand Kmart?
Yeah, I think so. All our one that sells these days is their own home brand crap. The stuff that falls apart before you even get it home.
Oh, well, I mean, so does ours. It's just that's what I expect from them. Like, if I want something that's going to last hardly any time at all, but I just need it now, then I go to Kmart and buy it.
At least it's cheap.
Kmart is identical to Walmart here, except they don't have as good selection, and they often jack the prices up.
I also buy clothes there because I destroy clothes. Like, as part of my work. Like, there's a good chance that it's going to get burned in some way.
Yeah, I give zero tosses about fashion, so I tend to just buy Kmart clothes because they're cheap.
Back in the early days of the show, I lit one of my shirts on fire.
Yes, you did.
Show.
Yeah, you also lit your nipple on fire.
Yeah, don't do that. That's quite painful. I would recommend against that.
That seems inadvisable to do.
I think most people don't need to be told that.
To be fair, I was probably drunk. I was pretty early in the show's history. But, yeah, so that's that.
Alright.
Who
wants to talk about
find the other article?
game rankings?
This article should have been entitled, "Did you know Game Rankings was still running and will continue up until December the 9th?"
Which is in 19 minutes tomorrow.
Yeah. So, yes, what used to be the competitor / sister to Metacritic.
It did.
It did.
Is it my imagination, or does this look identical to GameFAQs?
Run by the same people, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I honestly thought Game Rankings went years ago.
Yeah, you can see their affiliate links at GameFAQs and GameSpot at the very bottom of the list. If you go to the GameFAQs homepage. Yeah, they're part of that network.
So what did Game Rankings do?
Originally, they were separate from the Metacritic loop, and they were basically the equivalent of Metacritic for the GameFAQs, GameSpot loop until Metacritic joined that circle and then just usurped their role.
Yeah.
From my understanding, anyway. I think Metacritic was operating independently for quite a while and already taken the cake by the time it joined that.
Yeah, speaking of which, it's only really striking me now looking at Game Rankings. GameFAQs is a Web 1.0, isn't it?
I enjoy that it's like Web 1.5.
Yeah, nothing is hidden behind weird drop downs and stuff.
It's just like there is your information.
Like I need to go to Trails in the Sky, FAQs. Oh look, text.
Yeah, I can
click through.
Yeah, I can get a text link to anything I need. It's not like what I normally expect is that if I click on something on a website these days, the entire website will morph like a Michael Bay transform, and I won't be able to follow where I was trying to go.
Yeah. I have a little 3 next to a trophy in my GameFAQs profile, and I have no idea what it means.
There's only a 1 next to mine.
Birthday.
Yeah, my birthday one says my account is a year old.
Wait, what?
My birthday one is 3.
The only reason I made an account here anyway was so that I could grift for friend codes for FGO.
There you go.
Oh, I wrote that stupid Insano baby's first guide in the The new area is a strange journey. That's
that
right.
you can't edit.
That you can't edit because it was GameFAQs was designed by cretins.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's how.
Web 1.0, man. Old school forums.
Yeah, there is no edit button.
Once
like
it's
Twitter
there,
that
it's
way.
done. That's your lot.
Yeah, I wanted to. There are so many errors in those guides too. The content isn't too wrong. The problem is east and west are flipped a lot because I was rotating the map. So I will give the opposite direction you're supposed to go a lot of the time.
How nice of you.
And I was going to go back and check it and edit it later, but you can't do that. There is no editing.
Nope, you cannot.
So yeah, that's a thing. Game Rankings is dying, and I honestly wish I'd remembered it existed because its UI is so much nicer than Metacritic's.
Metacritic's has always been ugly.
I mean, they don't have user reviews on here, I don't think. No, but for critic reviews, this UI is so much cleaner. If you just need to pull up the IGN article to make fun of it or something, like this is good old Web 1.0, old school internet right here. Click on Fallen Order. It's got like a 78.21, and look, all the text links just right there in a table in text. No drop down menus. No shuffling off to another page. Oh,
neat,
so nice.
neat and tidy.
Why did we graduate from Web 1.0 to Web 0-2 that we're at right now? Or we're at like Web 3.0 now.
Because
with
we're
video
supposed to be in the
implemented
future, and everything needs to fly around and be completely pointless and impractical.
That's great, but whenever I go on a website, the first question I ask is, where's the thing I'm looking for? And I can't find it because the website keeps changing.
Yep.
If I ever get full control of a website for a business, the first thing I'm telling the web dever when I do it myself, because I have the free time that I won't, is going to be Web 1.5 or 1.0.
Yeah,
No morphing website.
everybody who's your customer is an old person.
Yeah. So the second I get control of that, I mean, it's already a website that's incredibly simple and Web 1.0e, but it's still too many graphics for me. I didn't want that many on there, but oh man.
Just fill all that white space with random pictures.
Like I told him, I'm like, you want the direct links at the top of the page and nothing anywhere else. But he didn't listen, and he listened to some of the things Bob, our web designer, told him, and he's got like this, the top of the page scrolls with you and crap. I'm just like, no, none of that.
That annoys me.
Yeah, it's like you're wasting my real estate. I scrolled down because I wanted that to disappear.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna post this on the live show chat, but later y'all can see our company website and the show host, so y'all have some context.
I think I've seen it before. Because you've complained about it regularly.
Yeah, I need to get full control of this thing because holy crap, the person that's making directions with the web designer doesn't have a clue what he's doing. So, yeah. We don't do MasterCard and Discover Card anymore. Why is that listed in our payment information? People can't pay us with those.
Wow, how long has it been since it's been updated?
2016.
Oh my.
3 years.
Oh my.
Your company has a Twitter?
We have a Twitter?
Does anybody actually post on it? Yeah,
We have-
here we go. 0 following, 6 followers. March 2015. Last time there was a tweet was September 16, 2015. And
Yeah, so no.
it's a quote unquote awesome video.
I bet it was the opossum.
Everyone needs social media. No, you don't.
No, you don't. You really don't. What you need is to
really
get your
don't.
little car and go, here's the solution to people that keep telling you need social media. Get your butt in a car, go to where your customers are, and do it there.
Why do you need social media to know what I'm doing? I'm in front of you, talking to you.
Anytime anybody asks me to do anything with Facebook, I immediately switch off.
Yep.
It's like all you're doing is telling me that nothing that you have to say from this point onward matters.
Yeah, it's like, and what's more, in a business sense, all these people going on about social media, it's like, why would I do that when I beat all the social media people on principle just by showing up in person?
Yeah.
They're going to like me more. I can make a better impression than you can on social media. And then browsing around, I can go get the sale myself and get it from you when they might have been considering you because I've talked to them.
And get
In
sniped
person.
by another company that's out of your territory.
And then they get owned by our parent company, or our not parent company, the our supplier's parent company. And so no, they're not allowed to do that, and then we get the money anyway.
Yeah. Anywho, old people rant over. Do we have
The moral
any
of
other
the story,
news?
folks. Not really game related, but I liked this, and it was on Niche Gamer, so I put it in here. Despite impeachment shenanigans dividing the country along political lines more than anything else in the world right now, very few times in U.S. history has the country been this politically divided, other than, when we actually had a civil war. There's been one thing to bring the Republicans and the Democrats together in a near unanimous vote with only 3 holdouts who are probably paid off by the companies that do this.
It might be abstentions. Sometimes people who don't vote get counted as against in these summaries.
So, 417-3. You can't do robocalls in the U.S. anymore.
Yay!
Glory, hallelujah. Okay, do you know how much of my day is spent with the phone next to me and it ringing and it being, please do not hang up. We are a company that is looking to improve your business through Google Business, whatever, and hang it up immediately.
Yes, please do not hang up. You hang up.
Like, you would think that they would stop saying that, because please do not hang up is like a code word for please hang up right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am about to waste your time.
Yeah, please do not hang up the phone. I have the phone going down towards the receiver before it can finish that sentence.
Yeah, you should really try and at least fool them into thinking you're a real person until you've gotten your initial pitch out.
Greeting, fellow human. I like food.
These wonderful biological functions of blood pumping through my veins is very enjoyable. How is yours today? Beep boop.
I would actually probably listen if they started carrying on like that. But it's
Wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a robot like that in Borderlands 2, wasn't there?
I think so. Was it Borderlands?
Yeah, it was. He wanted to be human, and you have to go blow up bandits and bring back bandit parts so he can stack.
Oh,
just kind of attach him to himself.
That's right.
And he gives you an awful gun as a reward.
But he says a whole bunch of stuff when you're just sort of near him about what he interprets human beings as doing and how he does them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's right outside the arena with the 5 levels in the last area with the waste, the toxic waste and stuff.
Yeah,
See, we made it about gaming.
There we go.
There you go. But yeah, so I don't know how this got on Niche Gamer and how this relates to gaming.
Probably somebody was incredibly hacked off that day because they'd received too many of them.
Could have been.
Yeah, and they are getting ridiculous, especially in, I don't know what it's like in your countries, but in the US it's really bad, especially for businesses.
It's really rare here. We probably have some kind of system in place that penalizes them automatically or something if they get caught.
Yeah, we kind of outlawed them a while ago.
So basically, every telecom company is now forced to implement a rule that says you can't do this and set up an automated system to stop it.
I think the only situation in which you can do it in this country is for like civil defense announcements and that sort of thing.
Yeah. From a couple people that have spoken on this, since I did a bit more digging on it, the real reason for this law is less just be a full stop automated block that's not going to let these things through anymore, but to give the U.S. federal government power over this particular issue so they can go arrest people that do it, like in India and junk that are just scamming Americans out of money.
Good.
So Indian people hate the U.S. in India. scam call companies, and they will just, as soon as they get found out, start losing their minds.
Well, you say Indians, but it's more Indian telephone operators.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the average Indian feels about the United States, but the people who sit in those call centers, well, they're probably ornery with everyone, to be fair.
Yeah. And they're just scams. They're not
They're
trying to
getting-
sell you anything. They're just scams.
They're getting paid like 5 cents a day to get to call up people who are going to definitely be pissed off at them. So they're probably not in a great mental place.
Hello, I have noticed that through your Bell South telephone account that your internet computer has gotten a virus, and we would like to help you remove it for a nominal fee of several $1,000s.
Yes, which we won't tell you what it actually entails. So
Wait, if you want-
We're going to get arrested.
For doing an impression, a bad one, of another accent.
You don't live in a police state, man.
You might get arrested. They'll have to try and extradite me, and I'm going to tell them to shove it. If I ever get an email or a message from either of y'all's governments, I'm just going to laugh in their face and tell you, get an extradition order,
you're
people.
more likely to get one from my
New Zealand-
opposition.
The New Zealand government is used to that, getting laughed at, especially since we got this latest prime minister.
'Tis what they
Yeah.
do.
I will take the Null approach, the guy that owns Kiwi Farms, and what he told your government when they tried to get information from him. He told him, good luck with that. Go get a proper subpoena from my government and we'll talk.
I think that my computer was listening to our pre-show discussion because it has just recommended I watch a video called Waifus Are Becoming Real by Gigic.
There you go.
Yeah, that's his latest one.
Yeah, he
I haven't
plays
seen
with
it yet.
phone Mega Man.
Yeah, I haven't played with it yet, or not played with it. I haven't watched. I definitely watched it yet.
It starts off kind of as a review, and then it goes to a very disturbing place.
This sounds like a description of every Gigic video I've ever seen.
It kind of is, yeah.
My favorite Gigic moment is when he opens a video and it's just a guy in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, and he just walks over to the camera and goes, "I'm going to jail."
That's a classic clip, that one.
That was the first time I saw it, and I had to go find the story behind it afterwards.
Yeah, that one's been floating around for a while.
Yeah, it's I think it's an older one.
All right. Anything else?
There was a thing about I think I saw it today about what was it called? What's that game called where you play football in a car?
Oh, Rocket League.
Rocket League. I think it was Rocket League. Where that Rocket League has basically it's got loot crates and keys for loot crates. Right? But they apparently the developer or publisher or whoever, I'm not exactly sure who it is, decided, oh well, we want to be more transparent, so we're just going to remove all of those whatchamacallits, the loot crates, and we're going to allow you to buy things directly from the shop.
Like, as an improvement?
But the thing is that the player base was completely outraged.
Mm.
And the reason for this is, number one, basically their price point sort of exposed them for what the odds were like. Because there's no way that they're going to take a financial loss on this move, right? There's no reason for them to do so, because Rocket League is not going to get significantly more popular or less popular as a result of this move in theory. So there's no reason for them to take a financial loss. So they were probably calculated, well, based on the odds, this is how much a given item should be valued at, maybe garnished with a little bit of extra. But apparently they're incredibly expensive. so people were mad about that, when previously, they could theoretically just get a couple of loot crates and they might get it, That's what gambling's all about. The other thing is that the whole keys and crates thing had developed into a community economy, and that basically got pile driven into the ground by this removal. So they, in effect, what they did do is that they were more honest about their prices and their odds, and the system is more transparent, and on the face of it, that's a good thing. However, what it ended up doing in the way they deployed it in practice was that the people in the community felt like they were being disempowered, basically, because previously they could value keys the way they wanted to, because they could decide, through trading, what those keys were worth. Much like in TF2, keys were like a major part of the player economy, and it apparently had gotten like that in Rocket as well. So this is what happens if you try to do the right thing but you don't understand your players. It's just as bad as doing the wrong thing. So yeah, you can't just assume that you think you do but you don't, and you can't assume that you have the correct interpretation of what you're observing either. Like, I'm sort of astonished that they didn't focus test this idea at all. Like, this seems to be a major problem with games companies, is that when they test an idea for its how much traction it'll get with the player base, they ask people inside the company that play the game and are involved in development.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, that person doesn't have an end user's perspective. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they tried to do the right thing, they screwed up royally. That's basically it. Like, you can't allow an ecosystem to establish and then replace it with the right thing team and then expect that not to have backlash.
You goofed.
Yeah. Bad news bears all around.
Pretty much. Was there anything else I saw recently?
No, I think that might be about it.
Yeah, mostly it was just people laughing at Stadia.
I mean, that's a joke that has not gotten old yet.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's going to linger for a while.
Yes.
I don't think anybody like the people have already stopped talking about it for the most part, except for the occasional meme. Like, that's how much impact they've had on the gaming space.
Yeah, you still get the champions jumping out saying, "Oh, this is going to be the future of gaming.
You're
the future of
looking at the
gaming is going to
picture
be
I
lies and
posted
lag."
from- You're looking at the picture I posted from VG247, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I've seen that comment, though.
Yeah, and they could be right. They could be right that it is the system that will be used in the future in gaming, but I don't think Google Stadia will survive long enough to see it become reality.
It will end up in the Google graveyard before too long.
Like, so many other ideas that you could argue are before their time. You could argue that they're outside the bounds of the technology we have, the financial means, the infrastructure, like that. Google often just makes these mistakes. Like, the one that always sticks out in my mind as an egregious error of just pure judgment is the Google Glass.
Yeah, that's the one I think that's what everybody first thinks of when they think of Google Flop.
Because that's not even to do with any of these things like technology. It just shows poor judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just they did not think the concept through.
It's like everybody is videoing you all the time, and all of that information is routed to that person and to Google. Privacy is over. Like, surely you can't get through development and not think that. And this links back to my previous point that I was making about the changes to Rocket League. They just assumed that their internal people understood what the public wanted and how the public would.
Yeah.
They just assumed that everybody thinks like them.
Same with Google Plus. Like, they thought, the social network thing is a big deal. Let's have a crack at it. And they just ran into the flabby, moist fat rolls of Facebook.
Yeah, like, you can't actually just do the same thing as everybody else and expect to beat them at it.
Facebook got out because they managed to do what MySpace did, but better.
I mean, all you need to do is look at like the MMO graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these things all have something in common with especially the social media and the video game stuff, where these guys are like, "Oh, this guy's doing this thing. That's great. We can do the exact same thing." But they're always products where the end user can go, "Yeah, my friends are already on the other one."
Yeah, that initial player investment is the most valuable thing. You need to be the first. The person who is second is just the first loser.
Exactly.
Yeah. You need to make sure your product, if you're going to copy somebody, does not have the ability for the end user to go, "Yeah, but my friends are already playing the other one."
It's not like it's impossible to get another video games gold rush. Like, the last one we had was the MMO gold rush. But that's because everyone was trying their own thing. Yeah, I suppose. Like, everyone just wanted to do Dota over again.
That one was really bad.
Yeah. At least with the
And-
MMO Gold Rush is okay. It was all MMOs, but there was a lot of WoW clones in there. But there's also people who are going out and kind of trying their own things.
Oh man, remember the League of Legends boom that brought Dota back, and Heroes of New Earth that came out alongside it, and how Oxtail and Hordak loved Heroes of New Earth. It would go on and on about it, and then it died first of all in the boom.
Is it even still going?
Is it still going?
I don't know.
It died.
Is that the one that there was a Nunu bot video making fun of?
Probably.
It was just
Yeah.
people screaming obscenities into the microphone all the time.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
something like that. We tried it, me and my group of friends at the time, with Abo and a few others. We poked at it.
The only thing I heard about it was people arguing that it's better than League of Legends because it's more like Dota. It's like, don't those people play Dota though?
Here we go. Final patch of the game was announced in February 2019. So it's still going, but it's not getting any more content now.
It's in maintenance mode, basically.
Europe. So it's essentially dead.
But yeah, I mean, in the case of MMOs, I can almost give them credit. I can almost understand it because a lot of people who weren't really gamers in an intensive way in that space didn't really understand the difference between EverQuest and World of Warcraft. So it looked like World of Warcraft had just done EverQuest but a bit better and gotten, the boom. But that really wasn't what happened. They're two different games. They just happened to share a genre. Like World of Warcraft was designed to be ultra accessible, by the standards of the genre at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And those are not the standards we've got now. Like World of Warcraft has become unbelievably sissified since then, as people who yearned for classic demonstrated. But I think that what people saw was that they saw this progression between EverQuest and World of Warcraft, and they thought that World of Warcraft to Warhammer Age of Reckoning was the same sort of jump, when in reality it wasn't. They were doing the same thing as World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft was not doing the same thing as EverQuest. Yeah. World of Warcraft, in fact, had specifically looked at EverQuest for things to do differently.
Yes. Their chief source of things not to do was EverQuest.
Well, yeah, because World of Warcraft is essentially a game about questing, where EverQuest is a game about grinding.
Yeah.
The idea of having quest hubs and quests that would do the majority of your leveling for you and progress you through a story, that was what World of Warcraft effectively created as far as mass appeal goes.
Yeah, before then it was EverQuest, RuneScape, pre World of Warcraft MMOs, and all you did was grind in those.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's not without its value, which is why that genre still exists. Like, it exists in the form of things like EVE Online for the most part now, where you have a humongous amount of freedom. But it's that only really goes to show that those things coexist because they are not the same, not because they are. That's why we see this sort of succession, and particularly it's vivid in things like fighting games where newer ones replace older ones because the overlap is strong enough that the best players have transferable skills or whatever. So you do end up with things rotating out of people's attention. But you can't just outright copy someone and expect to get traction that way. When someone brings something newer into the space like Dragon Ball FighterZ, they really are pitching at some particular niche that they think that they can land in. Whereas, if you look at Arc System Works, they had at the time Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, which is the slightly easier Guilty Gear. And there's basically nothing that appeals to the casual gamer whatsoever.
No, I'm not going to sit down and even attempt to explain how Hakumen works to a casual gamer.
Yeah, and I mean there was Persona 4 Arena, but I feel like Persona was too much of a niche appeal. Like it was too much the Persona game and too little the general purpose fighter.
Yeah, it was just a solid anime fighter. In retrospect, I really liked it though, but that was mostly because of franchise fangirl queen. more than the game actually being good.
Well, I think
But
that the
it was-
game was good. It was.
Yeah.
I didn't like it the way I liked Blaze Blue. I didn't. Basically, I didn't like the whole Persona thing. I didn't like the way that executes in combat. Similarly, I don't like playing the Puppet Master characters at all in Blaze Blue. I like having my character completely self-contained. But yeah, I still thought that it was a well executed and reasonably accessible fighting game, but that formula needed some work.
It did. It introduced the only real major complaint I have with the Persona fighting games is that they introduced the idea of auto combo, and while they did it right in those games, other companies have since gone, "That was a good idea," and done it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I always felt like, and this might just be an erroneous impression of mine, but I felt like Blaze Blue had auto combo as well. It just was, you did auto combo by pressing, square, triangle, circle, X.
Yeah, that was your basic bread and butter if you wanted to do it. So just sticking it on one button instead made it much easier for intro-level players to execute and gave them an option, and it also freed up those buttons to do other stuff.
Well, I didn't like that feeling at all. Like, even though I'm a very bad fighting game player, even when I was, a newbie at Persona 4 Arena, I didn't like doing it. It felt wrong and weird and bad.
Feels like cheating a little bit.
It feels kind of scrubby, but I think it had its balance where it did so little damage, but still had a tactical use at high level play where if somebody just needed bar and they were not in a situation to do a real combo, they would do a quick auto combo, disengage, and stay in an advantageous position if they managed to get a stray light hit. But it's stuff like that. But yeah, other companies did it wrong and made the auto combo do full damage and made it way too accessible for the casual player.
Yeah, and then you just press that button. That's the only thing you ever do, and you end up with an entire half of the ladder filled with people who just press that button.
Or play the one character that has one special move that counters that button. I.e. grapplers, which is why grapplers have got a really bad stigma lately.
Who's responsible for that? Which character?
Which one was it? It was one of the anime fighters, but it wasn't Arc System Works, and I forget which one it was.
I'm really looking forward
UNIV. That was it. That's the one that did it. Waldstein.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Grand Blue Versus game plays out, because they're trying something radically different, like Arc System Works often seems to want to do, in that you've got basically utility moves with cooldowns on your character, and that's an interesting approach that I haven't really seen executed in quite that fashion before. But yeah, I'm interested to see if it can find a niche and set itself up there, because the thing with Grand Blue is that it's not, while it is an extant franchise, it's not weirdly married to something else much more important the way Persona is. Like, because it's a gacha game, those characters all sort of have to stand on their own. The people who love the Grand Blue universe mainly do it because there's this individual character that they like. It's not like FGO where there's deep lore or anything like that. I mean, there is lore, and you'll hack off a Grand Blue player if you claim that there's not. But it's more or less, the characters are relatively atomized. They're meant to stand alone. So to build them up as a stable of fighting game characters makes sense independent of the main franchise. It hangs together a lot better than Persona did, where it was, these characters ultimately they all wear the same outfit and they do the same thing in the same place type of thing. And it's tied in very much to a story that you have to already care about, whereas Grand Blue is really not like that. So from a thematic perspective, it can carve out a niche. It's not wacky like Cross Tag, where it's all about the franchises fundamentally. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if the gameplay executes on a level where we can develop a following and people can really get into it. Because I've always very much liked their character design and their art in that game. I'd like to see it succeed.
Arc System Works has been on a roll so far, but now that they're not so motivated to take the cake from Capcom, I wonder if they'll be able to keep that quality train up.
Yeah, Capcom bothers me. Like, Capcom is sort of like a weird pseudo monopoly where they don't even need to try and they still win.
Well, the thing is, when the Capcom bust, Arc System Works has took their flag and have planted it, and it got enough people to sustain themselves in the in the looping industry now.
Well,
Cross
that's
Tag and Dragon Ball Fighters have stuck around,
Well,
unlike their
that's-
previous ones.
that's true, but the thing is that Street Fighter still exists, and honestly, it doesn't have any right to.
Yeah, maybe they'll do a complete 180 with this big update they're doing, but I think that ship's already sailed.
I mean, like Street Fighter is only like one game away from being Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Eee.
Like they nosedive that entire franchise straight into the ground, and I feel like it's just due time for Street Fighter to end up going that way as well. But the thing is that I think that if Street Fighter came out with Street Fighter, whatever number we're up to now, 6, I guess, will be the next one. I don't. Well,
It's
you could
5
add a
Ultimate.
bunch of letters to the end of it. I
Yeah.
don't know. But if they came out with one as bad as Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, I think that all the people who play Street Fighter would still play it.
I don't know. The Marvel fans were even more rabid than the Street Fighter fans in support of their franchise, and they abandoned Infinite like.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think that Marvel fans are a different kettle of fish, because the thing is that you've got the situation in like it's the deep lore situation, right? People who care about Marvel characters a lot, and saying that, oh well, they're just skins on top of a mechanic, and it doesn't really matter what the characters are, and by the way, you can't play as Wolverine. Like you're not really on a winning formula there when your entire game is about the franchise, much in the same way that Persona 4 Arena is about Persona, and therefore was relying on the minuscule overlap between hardcore fighting game players and hardcore JRPG players. Like the Marvel game is relying on Marvel fans. It's nobody cares about the Capcom part of Marvel vs. Capcom anywhere near as much as they care about the Marvel part. The Marvel ones are the ones that are sustaining on raw IP power. So I feel like that's a different case. Like when you make a bad Marvel vs. Capcom game, you're basically insulting the Marvel characters to a lot of people, and you're making them unpleasant in a certain way. In the case of Street Fighter, like Street Fighter is the mythos surrounding Street Fighter is not about the characters, it's about the history of the game itself. And when you're dedicated to the history of the game itself, you may in fact just write out a garbage game because, well, there have been rough patches in history and there will be rough patches again, but maybe the next one will be good.
Yeah, there's another thing with Marvel too. We're in the Marvel bust. People are just burnt on Marvel now.
Yeah,
And
this media saturation, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, the start of the Marvel bust really hit right when Infinite came out.
Yeah, the MCU had already clearly done its dash by that point, and everybody was just waiting for the Avengers series to be over so that they could, bookend that part of their life where they were waiting for the next Avengers movie.
Yeah. Anywho, despite all signs that we were going to have a short show, we've actually pushed it out to be a little bit long.
Oh, we're not quite
Well,
okay
actually,
yet.
we're on time now because we started.
We started really late, so
Yeah, so we're actually about 2 hours in. So yeah, I think we're pretty well done. That covers everything that we could find this week.
Europe.
So
yeah.
coming this week, we've got the Video Game Awards, do we?
I will double check the date, but yes.
Right. So the next show is liable to be our Video Games Awards show, and possibly the last show of the year. Is that how we're structuring it?
Looking that way, yeah.
I was sort of hoping we had more time than that. That's why I was hoping that Video Games Awards would be this week, because I wanted to do VGA's episode and then the year's roundup, the year in review roundup after that. But it looks like we don't have that time because Ashley is asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. So yeah, we can't afford not to take the 21st and the 28th as our 2 weeks off because that's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Video Game Awards actually happen on this coming Thursday.
Thursday.
So we can kind of mash them together. I know, but yeah, we kind of a bit rushed this year because Rantathon kind of happened and took up a lot of the attention for a while there.
Yeah, and we put it off to hit episode of 400 instead of on the yearly date.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, the 2 week break will be on the 21st and the 28th, I think, because that covers Christmas, and that's the big shenaniganery when stuff goes on, and then New Year's will happen the week after, and then we'll be back on the 4th, is what it looks like.
Yep.
Well, fifth
So-
for Fern and I.
Yes.
Oh, 5th for them too. So yeah. So the 4th, 5th is when the next show will be after that. So next week is our last show. So we'll do what we can. Might run long. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yep. So VGAs and that. Although we already covered the VGA, so if we just want to glance on it and do end of year roundup, that's probably.
Well, it depends on how sidetracked we get by being outraged all over again at the idiot picks. And also, we don't know for sure that there won't be another Sonic Fox or Sonic Fox-esque segment.
Please don't jinx us. I hope that's not going to be the case. Oh, we can't actually run late because I work after it too. We might actually start early.
We'll see. That we're in the holiday season, so I do not know when I'm available on when.
Yeah,
So
we'll figure something out.
I'll have to look at schedules and when stuff's due to see how much time I'll have on that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see y'all next week for the Game Awards at the very least, and then we'll see you again on the 4th. So we'll be back next week, folks. We'll see you then. Any closing comments?
Nope. That's it.
We didn't even talk about Monster Hunter, so we'll have to get into that over Christmas and then bring our thoughts.
Yes, we have to get pummeled
Yep.
by mature Xeno'jiva.
Yep, I will attempt to get into it sometime probably right after New Year's is when I'll have time to really sit down and mechanically figure out a game again. So we'll see y'all then. Sayonara. Bye-bye.